As you look about your society now, you can see that tyranny and evil is on the rise. And this can be reason for many to be in a sense of dread and alarm and worry that the few remaining liberties and access to the resources which ensure one can prosper or live in relative happiness may soon no longer be available to you, because necessary for the presence of darkness in your experience must be those that propagate the darkness, those that are invested in the darkness, because they are the essential internal workings of this energy which will push you into the light. And we are speaking specifically of, at the very heart, at the very epicenter of the network of darkness on your planet, is what we call the Hi, it's Muzz iEvolv and welcome to this week's channeling. Thank you for being here. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this channeling, please take a moment now to like, subscribe, comment, and share this video because it just is so helpful to my cause here. If you haven't read this book, then it's time that you did. It's called The 3 Awakenings That Save Humanity. It's available in paperback, audio, and ebook, and the link to those options is below. If you'd like to do a private channeling with me, again below this video you'll see there is a link going to an inquiry form where you can just make an inquiry. I will send you some more information about how it works, what it costs, and then you can decide after that if you want to proceed or not. It's no obligation to start that process. If you would like to make a donation, that would be very helpful. Some weeks I can go an entire week without making a single cent other than the donations that I receive, so they are very helpful and very important to me. So if that's something you would like to do, then go below and you can see there are links going to the places where you can make a donation. And just an update on what's going on regarding the donations. I've always felt uncomfortable just asking for money, just please give me some money. So what I've done is I've created a membership site where you can get the transcripts and the audios and the videos of all of the channelings that I've done in the past and all the ones that I'm planning to do in the future. That is very close to being completed. So very soon, hopefully next time that you watch me do a video, which is next week, I will have that completely finished, and then you can become a benefactor of what I'm doing here, if that's something you would like to do, and you would get something in return. So it's no longer just give me free money, which I never really felt comfortable with. So that's coming down the pipeline very soon. And now on to today's question. What is the synergy of good and evil? What is the synergy of good and evil? Greetings and thank you for the question. What is the synergy between good and evil? We have decided to answer this question today because what is occurring on your planet right now is very relevant in the context of this relationship between good and evil. And when you are aware of this synergy between good and evil in the context of what is occurring, then you can begin to join the energetic dynamics that are at play, to enter the arena, so to speak, so that the evil isn't wasted, but is instead utilized for the purpose of which it is intended. Let us first say that good and evil are really terms which are more relevant to the experiences of the sentient apex species of your solar system. But in the larger universe, in the rest of the cosmos, it would be more accurate to give these designations of light and darkness rather than good and evil. Let us explain why this is so. The default way by which species are birthed into creation, these are apex species which have a conscious sentience, a higher life form with intelligence, is to be born into creation already in possession of the understanding that they are the light and nothing but the light. Therefore, if they act with what would be considered from the human perspective evil, it is not evil, but rather it is a philosophical choice to utilize the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum for beneficial reasons to themselves. So they do not identify with the darkness, but rather they utilize the darkness. And this is an important distinction, because although the actions of those which utilize the darkness but have in possession of an understanding that they are the light and nothing but the light, then the darkness is used as a tool. However, in the solar system experiment, the apex sentient species which have been birthed into creation here have done so without possession of that fundamental understanding, which is they are the light and nothing but the light. So there is some confusion about what they are in an energetic, or rather a spiritual sense. As the spiritual spectrum has two polar opposites, the darkness and the light, then there needs to be a process of discovery to make the determination, is one of the light or is one of the darkness? So, therefore, there is some period in the human experience throughout your history and also in your own lives, occasionally now, but less so than in previous incarnations, where you had a belief that you were the darkness, because you have been born with an absence of that fundamental understanding that you are the light and nothing but the light. Therefore, it is possible within the context of what occurs here in your solar system that one could misconceive of themselves as the darkness, believing they are the darkness, then acting from that belief. This is evil, and not just a philosophical choice, because it is believing that you literally are the darkness. I hate those people. This is self-identifying with the darkness. It is believing that you are the darkness, rather than just a philosophical choice, rather than just a tool which you are wielding to bring about what it is that you desire. And so, within this context of your solar system, while still absent of this fundamental understanding that you are the light and nothing but the light, then the choice not to be evil is the choice to be good. And this is why it is relevant within the experience which occurs here that one could ask, what is the synergy between good and evil? But outside of this experiment, which is encapsulated within the solar system being, it is more accurate to say what is the synergy between light and darkness. So, now that we have the definitions out on the table, let us now zoom back into what is occurring here in the Earth human experience, within this solar system being. Because you have the capacity to identify with the darkness, but your ultimate journey is to, as it is for all species of all organisms within the all, the entirety of the journey is to eventually come to the final realization that you are the one, that you are God. And this is the same as saying that you are the light. You are comprised of the light and nothing but the light. This is the journey. As humans have been birthed into creation without this fundamental understanding that they are the light, which eventually, as you discover more and more and more and more about what this means to be the light, to finally have the culminating realization of the entirety of the reason, the purpose for which you were created, which is, I am God. I am actually God. So this very unique beginning that you have here, where you must first even have the realization that you are the light before you can begin this larger journey, then you must experiment with the darkness. You must toy with the idea that, am I the darkness? Perhaps I am the darkness. Yes, I think I am the darkness. You act with darkness. You behave with darkness. And yet, over time, across incarnations, more and more you feel an incongruency with that belief system, because you are collecting experience as you transition through all of your incarnations. And this is a collection of experiential knowledge of self, because ultimately that is what you're doing here. You are in the process of knowing yourself to completion through experience. And this is your purpose because it is the one's purpose and you are the one. So the one is experiencing you through this unique perspective which you represent. All of your experiences are the one's experience because you are just an individuation of the one playing with the illusion that there is more than one, such that it can collect experiential knowledge of itself. So, as you continue with this process over many, many incarnations, and you have a more thorough understanding and knowledge of who you are through experience, you will begin to have feelings of incongruency with the darkness, where you will act with darkness because you have a belief that you are the darkness, and yet once you do it, you will go, that does not feel right. That does not feel congruent with who I am beginning to realize that I am. I am beginning to realize that I am actually a good person, and a good person doesn't do those things. It doesn't feel right, so I am going to discontinue that. I am going to release it from my identity. And this is the process of realization until eventually, at the very final moments of your transition through the third density. And when we say your transition through the third density, we are speaking to you as the humanity being. This single being which is comprised of all of the individual units within, of which you are one, and all that you know. All of your friends, all of your relatives, all other human beings that you know and are aware of are also individual components, individual units of this larger organism, the humanity being. And so when humanity reaches the end of the third density and all of the potential for spiritual growth that is contained within the third density has been exploited, and for humanity to continue to grow in its experiential understanding of itself, to continue its spiritual journey, it must access a new matrix of potential where more of its infinity, more of your infinity is available for you to expand into on this journey of expansion, 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 until the ultimate destination of having expanded to the entire size of the one and realizing that you are one, you are God. So, this means that for you to realize that you are the light, for you to have this experience of incongruency and discovering that you are the light, more and more, more and more, more and more, polarizing into the light, then it is clear to see that the darkness is playing an important role in this process. Because if the darkness was not part of your experience, then you would not have the contrast, the demarcation, which illustrates to you what the light is. It is through experiencing the darkness and realizing that you are not the darkness that the revelation you are the light can be made. So, as you feel this incongruency and more throughout your incarnations, and especially in this current incarnation, where this shift in your belief systems, in your energetic composition, has started to take on an exponential quality, and you are now very rapidly purging the darkness and realizing that you are something entirely different. You are not the darkness, you are the light. Because when you purge the darkness, you are confronted with the consideration, with the pondering. If I am not the darkness, if I am not the hate, if I am not the anger, if I am not the sadness, the depression, the despondency, the hopelessness, if I am not those things, as I'm realizing more and more because they just do not feel right, then what am I? And this will inevitably open up the realization conceptually, intellectually, that, I get it. I must be the light. I am the light. And so then you start polarizing towards the light. You start acting more and more from the light. You begin to be a being of greater virtue than you had been in the past. Because a being which is comprised of the light, which believes it is the light, and then starts acting in ways which are congruent with this belief, is a being which is increasingly virtuous, which lies less, which loves more, which acts in all moments with greater integrity, and so on. So, the darkness is serving a very important function in your reality. So, when you are cognizant that this dynamic is at play and that the darkness is very, very necessary to push you and the rest of humanity into the light, such that you may make this realization. And it is pertinent to say at this moment that this realization that you are the light and nothing but the light is something which is not possible to be entirely realized while in the third density, because it is just not a capacity of the third density experience. So, you can have a conceptual understanding that you are the light. You can have an intellectual understanding that you are the light. And you can then behave more and more as if you are from the light. And this is a very close simile to being in a state of full realization that you are the light. But when you cross the threshold from the third density into the fourth density, when you emerge from the birth canal of ascension, you will, in that moment, have a full, palpable, visceral understanding, knowing that you are the light and nothing but the light. And once this realization is in your possession, you will also realize that you are connected to the One and always have been connected to the One. And you'll also realize that you are all connected to each other. That all of you form the network, the internal structure of a larger being, a group being of many parts, the humanity being. So, as you look about your society now, you can see that tyranny and evil is on the rise. And this can be reason for many to be in a sense of dread and alarm and worry that the few remaining liberties and access to the resources which ensure one can prosper or live in relative happiness may soon no longer be available to you, because necessary for the presence of darkness in your experience must be those that propagate the darkness, those that are invested in the darkness, because they are the essential internal workings of this energy which will push you into the light. And we are speaking specifically of, at the very heart, at the very epicenter of the network of darkness on your planet, is what we call the cabal of darkness, the unified malevolence. Those that have made the philosophical choice to follow the pathway of darkness, but as it is within the human context, they identify with the darkness. So it could be said they are the most evil in the human experience. And also, it would be accurate to say they are currently the most evil that have ever existed in the human experience, because they have become so adept at utilizing the darkness to create what it is that they desire, to bring about their dystopian vision, which is thrust upon the earth and subjugates the very larger majority of humanity under the yoke of a very small number indeed. So, to come to this place where humanity finds itself now has been a process of many millennia, spanning many generations, for those that are focused around the darkness, that are utilizing the darkness to get what it is that they desire. And this is why they are so adept, they are so proficient at evil. It is more than just a choice to act with malevolence, but it is in fact a religious science where they have developed many rituals and many processes which intensify the darkness in the most efficient way possible. And it is the darkness which they can then use to bring about their vision. Understand that darkness is a power. However, it is a power which is of much less intensity, much less potency than the light. But what is occurring in your Earth human experience right now and in the preceding millennia is that the darkness is very aware of itself. It is very organized. It is very structured. It has a very deliberate and efficient hierarchy to utilize the power that comes from the darkness. And that is why at this time, from a perspective, it can appear that the darkness is the most powerful force on your planet. But this is only because the much larger power, which is the light contained within humanity, is still disorganized, is still mostly unaware of itself. And this is because your cultures, your societies have been very deliberately engineered such that this understanding of the light and the power that is contained with each of you individually, and even more so when you come together and unite, has been deliberately suppressed. It has been expunged and scrubbed from your knowledge, from the information which is readily available and accessible to those that are outside of this very close-knit inner circle of darkness. They have stolen the sacred knowledge from you. And this is why, at this time, even they are at a much smaller number, and they are utilizing a power which has much less potency and intensity than the power of the light, they are still dominating your planet. And they are very, very close to putting the crown on their vision and yoking humanity into a servitude, a eternal slavery from which there is no escape. But even though they are so close, they shall never be able to suppress the light within humanity indefinitely. They have their successes, and they inch closer and closer and closer. But as they inch closer and closer, it takes on an asymptotic relationship where they can approach and approach and approach and approach and approach the result that they desire. And they are inching closer and closer, but the line is almost vertical. And this line going up is the awakening of humanity. So, what we are trying to illustrate is to say that as they move 1 inch closer to the culmination of their ultimate vision, humanity strides 1,000 kilometers further into its own awakening. And then when they inch yet another inch closer, humanity strives now 10,000 kilometers into its awakening as a powerful force of the light. So, they are having diminishing returns. And each action they take is a massive boon and acceleration of humanity's awakening and realization of what it truly is. This is why there is a rebirth in your cultures of this concept of religion, of relationship to your Creator, of the message that we shared through your Jesus Christ and Buddha and Krishna and Muhammad and all other true vessels of the light and message of the humanity being that have existed throughout the history of humanity. Yet, this is something which the cabal of darkness wish to suppress, to snuff out. And this is why within the English-speaking cultures you will see that there is a concerted effort, it seems, to extinguish the concept of Christianity. Because this growing interest in Christianity is a birthing into a greater realization that you are the light and nothing but the light. And just within the context of your culture, the way in which that is most commonly done historically and still currently is through this vehicle of religion, of Christianity in particular. But even so, outside of the Christian paradigm, there are also many, many, many millions who are seeking this revelation of who they actually are, polarizing more to the light through their own relationship with their Creator, with this ultimate energy which seems to permeate through all things, which is benevolent and loving and nothing else. So, if this is what is occurring, then this blight of darkness, this shadow of evil which is looming over the earth, can now be perceived as something which is not a terror, but instead is an essential synergy for you and all other individual units of this humanity being to make the journey into the light, such that you can be ready when the ascension event occurs. So, from this new perspective, it can be perceived as a blessing. It is something to be grateful for. Have peace that the darkness looms so heavy as such a vast shadow over your planet, because it is only through this mechanism that humanity can be pushed to discover the light within themselves and the light within each other. And when this recognition of the light within and the light within each other starts to take on a more palpable and more universal and mutually agreed concept, then this is when the lightness starts to get organized. This is when the light starts to take on a structure which magnifies, which intensifies the potency of the power which is contained within. Darkness, this negative end of the spiritual spectrum, it is low in its vibration. And the light end of the spiritual spectrum is very high in its vibration, increasingly higher as you approach to love and love and love and love, and higher it goes. And then the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum is lower and lower and lower and lower it goes as it approaches fear, the ultimate polarity of the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. So if you have even a rudimentary understanding of physics, then you know that things that vibrate very slow, very low, contain less energy than things which vibrate very high, very rapid. So it is clear to see that the more you polarize to the light, the greater your energy becomes. Yet, the more you polarize to the darkness, the lower your energy becomes in terms of its potential. And this is why, as you approach the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, it is absolutely essential that you build an empire and a hierarchical structure beneath you, where you have many, many minions and minions and minions and layers and layers and layers, which are all giving their effort to that which is at the apex of the empire of darkness. So a very large and complicated structure is required to pull off what it is that they wish to achieve. And this is why you will see in your politics, in your corporations, in your government bureaucracy, that there appears to be many within those structures which are in essential choke points, vital positions, who seem to be acting in a way which is not for humanity, which is counter to what the light would intend there to be. So why is it? Why is it that you find these people in these important, vital choke points within all of these structures of your societies? It is because they have been implanted. It is essential that they are in those positions so that they can be part of the network which brings about this dystopian future, which slowly inches it forward. Because the potency of darkness, just as an energy, is insufficient. It is not powerful enough. So this cooperation of the 3D, of the minions, of the many layers of structure and hierarchy, all working together in unison, contributing to the effort, the single effort of the apex of that structure of darkness. But the lightness is very different. The light end of the spiritual spectrum does not require hierarchy, because you can have your own personal relationship with the Creator. You can have your own personal relationship with the benevolent energy which courses and pulsates through all things. You can commune with your Creator. You can have an actual relationship with God. And there is no hierarchy required. And this is why the lightness has mostly stayed in a state of disorganization, because it has just not been necessary. And then when there have been attempts to create some type of structure, some type of hierarchy, some type of system which could facilitate one's connection with their Creator, then it has inevitably been usurped by those that are from this negative end of the spiritual spectrum, who can see the potential that they could access if they were to take over these structures. And we are talking about formalized religion. At the very upper levels, at the highest points of control of the religious institutions in your societies, they have been usurped. But at the level of the individual citizen, of those that just have goodness in their heart and wish to commune with their Creator, to be righteous and good, because they have a feeling and understanding within themselves that this is what they are intended to do, that this is really being congruent with who they actually are. At this level, there is still very much good and lightness, which is part of that paradigm. And we make this distinction to say that religion is not something to be completely discounted. And when we speak about the cultural pillars, which have been utilized by the cabal of darkness to corrupt your societies, we deliberately do not include the cultural pillar of religion, although it has been usurped and it is to some degree being utilized in that way. But we do not include that because we do not want to taint this vehicle, this doorway that one can use to enter into a greater wonder and exploration of what it means to be virtuous, of what it means to be of the light, what it means to act like Jesus did, to connect with your Creator, and so on. So, knowing that the darkness is essential to push you into the light, then start utilizing it in that way. When the darkness looms over you and it casts a shadow, which perhaps makes you feel concerned, makes you feel worried about the future, let go of those feelings. Understand that part of its strategy of the darkness is to make you feel bad about yourself, to make you feel bad about your life, to make you worry, to make you afraid, to make you hateful, to make you angry, to make you hopeless. This is its strategy, because when you feel this way, you are identifying with the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. I am sad, I am afraid, I am angry, I am hateful. You are literally in those moments conceiving that you are these things. Yet you are an individuation of the One, which means you are the light and nothing but the light. So it is a misconception of what you truly are. But can you see, when you are entertaining these dark energies, then you are contributing to the greater network, the greater whole of the darkness energy which is on this planet. And those that are at the epicenter, who are wielding it as a tool, you are making them more powerful, because you are contributing to the energy field which they are wielding as a weapon. So, instead, purge those misconceptions of self. Purge the darkness. I am not hateful. I am not angry. I am not anxious. I am not despondent. I am not sad. I am not any of those things. Because it's literally impossible for me to be those things. although I can misconceive that I am those things, but I understand at my fundamental essence, I am not those things. What am I? I am the light. I am gratitude, peace, happiness, joy, bliss, love, and all of the further derivatives and abstractions of that lightness end of the spiritual spectrum. Therefore, rather than feel despondency, I will feel gratitude. I will feel gratitude that the darkness exists, and the darkness is fulfilling a very essential service to push me into the light. And then once I'm in a state of gratitude, it is easy for me to find my peace. Because if I am grateful for all aspects of my life, then what is there to be anxious about? There is nothing which is pulling me down, because I am in a state of gratitude about all aspects of my life. I am now at peace. And once you are at peace, it is very easy to relax and start admiring and looking at the things about your life which are good, which are wonderful, which are just the way you would like them to be. And that it gives you the beginnings of happiness, a sense that everything is good, everything is great. I am so happy about my life. I am very happy about my life. I am intensely happy about my life. I am in a state of absolute joy of how my life lives, how I am, who I be in every moment. And then there is the bliss of being in this state perpetually. And now it overflows into a state of absolute, intense love for self, for everything, for the one. A love which is unconditional. A love which is because you understand it is what you are. You are love. So, begin utilizing the darkness in this way. Every time you have any feeling that is uncomfortable, which doesn't feel right, which is unpleasant, recognize that is a feeling from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. And it doesn't feel right because it isn't right. It isn't you. This is why it feels bad, because it is you believing you are something which you are not. And the fact that it is a bad feeling is the signpost to you that you are holding a feeling which is untrue, which is incorrect. And so what does that feeling come from? It comes from an underlying belief. And that belief is false. So, let it go. And whatever the circumstance is which led you to feel that particular way, be grateful for its existence. Because now that you are aware, now that you are cognizant about what is occurring, this experience has been a blessing, because it has reminded you that you are not that. So you can turn your focus to what you actually are and allow yourself to fill up with the energies which you actually are. You are peace. You are gratitude. You are happiness, joy, bliss, love. You literally are those things. And all that is required is that you release the misconception that you are something from the negative end of the spiritual spectrum. That you are some form of darkness, of evil. Let it go, because it is not the truth. And then what is left is the revelation of what you actually already are and always have been. Love and its derivatives. Gratitude is always the access point into the light. It is the easiest place to begin. So at the very center of the spiritual spectrum, where one end is the light, the other end is the darkness, right in this very center, on one side, from this very center, is gratitude. And on the other side is anxiety. Anxiety is the doorway into the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. And gratitude is the doorway into the light end of the spiritual spectrum. So, when you become skilled at controlling your energies, at being aligned with the truth of who you are, which means being comprised entirely of the energies of the light end of the spiritual spectrum, then you will be immediately aware the moment you feel anxiety. When you feel anxiety, understand that you are beginning to make inroads into this misconception of self. You're beginning to enter into the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. But this energy of anxiety, it can be useful if you do not allow yourself to enter further. Because if you're a little anxious, then it can be a reason that you apply yourself more, that you are motivated to do what needs to be done. And then, when you become aware that you're beginning to make a small transition into a place that you do not want to go, into a misconception, a belief system about yourself which isn't true. I am sad, I am hateful, I am angry. When you are noticing that you're making that inroads, turn around in a spiritual sense and be grateful that you had the awareness, the consciousness in that moment to realize what was occurring. And so that experience, that scenario, that circumstance has been a sacred moment that has blessed you with that awareness in the moment of your spiritual constituency. And so you're grateful. And then you're peaceful. And then you are happy. Then you are joyous. Then you are blissful. Then you are a being entirely of love. Because that is the truth of who you are. Let us finish in this way. The power that is still untapped within the humanity being is immense. It is breathtaking. It is a power which is so much more potent than the darkness is. And the darkness has taken many millennia, many generations of a unified, concerted effort to arrive at the place where it is now, where it is literally on the brink of assuming total control of your planet. Yet even so, in this state, its energy, which has been honed and crafted over millennia, is insignificant in comparison to the untapped power of the light which is contained within the humanity being. It is dwarfed to the extreme. And when humanity begins to come together in a state of appreciation of what is contained within self and each other, then you will see things really begin to shift. And as you look about on your planet now, you can see it is already happening. This is very, very exciting for all those who are observers and have been for a long time of the Earth human experience. Because we are fascinated by the very unique dynamic which is playing out here, where there is going to be a species which goes through a process of realization where it will be endowed with some very fundamental understandings of its true nature, which for the rest of us have been a default quality with which we were birthed. Yet you shall possess it through realization, a true blessing, because you will have an experiential understanding of the light which is unique. And therefore you will have access to a quality of wisdom which is equally unique. We learn much from your experience. And when you make the final transition, we are very excited about what more we will learn when we can be part of a community which contains a species that understands it is the light, that understands that it is connected to the one, that understands it is all connected to each other, yet once upon a time it did not. This is very exciting and enticing. So we are curious to the extreme. And now it is beginning to occur. There have been some false starts where it started to take place, where humanity started to come together, and then the cabal of darkness implemented strategies to dampen down this effect. Prior to your medical situation, which has dominated the sphere for the last 3 years, large groups of human beings were coming together in many different countries all around the planet, demanding more from their leaders, from their rulers, from the elite which govern over them. More access to resources, higher wages, better quality water, a cleaner environment, and so on and so on, for many different reasons all around the planet. In 2019, we were witnessing this inevitable coming together, this formation of the unity. But the unified malevolence, the cabal of darkness, they also recognized what was occurring. And so they rolled out their contingency, which was a medical emergency, a justification for shutting it all down and pushing each of you into an environment where you were not allowed to leave. And also creating a psychological fear state where you were even afraid of those that are closest to you, afraid of your own parents, afraid of your own children, for fear of what contagion they may carry, which could end your life prematurely. This is a very evil intent to deny humanity its natural course through its spiritual evolution. But as the unified malevolence is beginning to discover, humanity's awakening cannot be denied, only delayed. And this delay, which they were awarded with of 3 years, has now done its time and coming to an end. And in Brazil, you can see there are many millions coming together in protest, once again forming these larger unities which have a single objective, which is the benevolence of the entire group. And also, now in China, you can see it is occurring in a very similar way, although the reason, the impetus is different, is for a different political semantics. However, the fundamental phenomenon is the same. It is the coming together of humanity to form a large force, to take structure, to become organized, so they can broadcast and emanate a power of light which is so intense, so powerful, that this small, well-organized minority which have ruled over them are terrified, are in a state of absolute panic, because they are much more aware than the people are of the disparity in the power between them, the small group, which are dominant and cruel, and the larger mass, which are now only just beginning to awaken to who they actually are. And as time rolls on you will see this spreading more and more and more and more. This is the beginning. Mark this down in your history books, because in the future, humanity will reflect back at this time with the appreciation and the gratitude that this is where it all began. Thank you, and we love you.